All right, what's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Book is entitled Lessons from a Non-Custodial Father at Amazon, Kindle, and Create Space. A link will be in the description box below. As usual, this video is entitled Too Shallow for Depth. And like I said in the last video, if I look funny, that's because I got in a car wreck and that's a big gashes on my forehead, yes. I got two-pieced by the damn, by the airbags. But some people are too shallow for depth. Talk about people in relationships and people say, you know, what you say you want is in complete contradiction to the things you're doing. You want somebody to care about you or to be down for you, but you want a model also. And the idea that you can have both is possible, but it's not probable. But the issue is you're willing to accept a model with that's not loyal over somebody who's loyal to you, who is attractive. So you're too shallow for depth. You're too shallow for what you're actually ultimately looking for. You know, some people want to get in relationships with people because for financial reasons. And whether they get that person or they don't, it usually plays out the same in the end. They fell in love with the person's pockets and not the person. So once they get what they want or they hit their number, they feel like it's a come up, so I don't need you no more. But if you fell in love with the person would have gave you the money. But since you fell in love with the money, when the person's gone, you only gonna miss what they got you. And those very things they bought you, or the very things you thought you used them for, are the very same thing very same things that are gonna haunt you wherever you're at in your future. Because every time you look at whatever material thing that you got out of them, it's gonna also be a reminder of what they could do for you, but what you wouldn't do for them. And also, it's gonna remind the people around you that you're saying you're accustomed to certain things from certain people, but you're just a user. Because I remember being around a young lady a long time ago, and she didn't like us, men. And she had a boyfriend, but she talked real bad about him at the time. Well, she used to have a boyfriend at that time. And I asked her one day, I said, what did you do for him in this 2-year relationship? And it took her a minute to say, well, I bought him cologne. I said, so in 2 years, all you can remember ever doing for this guy is buying him cologne. And she paused again, and she was, yeah, that's what I did. And I said, now, I'm pretty sure that in the 2 years with this guy, he's done so much for you that he's forgot half of the things he did, and you forgot half of the things he did. Can I be right? She was like, yeah. I said, you see, that's a problem. You know, because you're too shallow for depth. Because now when you don't miss your water until your well runs dry, and you forget about the things that happen after. You know what I'm saying? Just after the fact. And for some people, that's a major problem. Another thing that goes on that most people don't want to talk about, I think, is the idea that, and how can I say this? There comes a day where you may want family. But you may want family for shallow reasons because, you know, it's some self-centered, selfish want. And you're too shallow for depth because if you are blessed enough to have that family, now actually being the leader or one of the leaders of that family bothers you. You wanted the kids and the spouse, but you wanted them as like a trophy that you could show off to people. It's not something that you really care about. So every time it comes, you have to make a move or make a sacrifice in particular for these people. It bothers you. It gets upset. You get upset. You get overwhelmed. You get stressed out because you were too shallow to really be a family person. Your family was just an extension of your accomplishments that you could tell people that you accomplished, not necessarily something that you actually wanted to actively participate in on a daily basis. Not something you wanted to give your life to. You know, family wasn't necessarily your passion. And this is why I say some people are too shallow for depth, because that leads into passion, right? See, the things that you're passionate about say the most about you. Now, when you're passionate about yourself and maybe keeping up with the Joneses or people's perceptions, the things that are important at the end of the day aren't important to you. You know, because what happens when you have people in your life that that don't care about you, and you wonder why they don't care about you? Well, that's because at the end of the day, you never cared about them. You were too shallow to care about them. You know, did you show them the best of you, or did you expect them to give the best of themselves to you with nothing in return? And you got that a lot with people nowadays thinking that their presence is charity. And because they have an overly inflated ego of who they are, they think the people around them, they think they act as if they're doing the people around them a favor by being around them, when the people around them are the people who provide the resources to them. They don't do anything for anybody else, but they're too shallow to understand that. They think, you know, their presence equals these other people's production. And it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't at all. But that's when you're too shallow for depth. Because what winds up happening over time is when you burn so many bridges, you're left staring at yourself in the mirror. And when you're staring at yourself in the mirror, you learn to pay attention to the idea that, you know what, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, and I can't go back to these people and ask for any kind of help or any kind of forgiveness. Now I have to actually pick myself up by my bootstraps on my own, because when they were doing something sincere and from the heart, I was doing something from the space of manipulation and ego, and those things don't mix. And you know, they say hell has no fury like a woman scorned, but I think that goes for any person. Like once you cross somebody, there ain't no going back. And some people are too shallow to pay attention to the fact that they cross people, because they don't think that what they did is worthy of being excommunicated. And just in my opinion, that's ridiculous. You know, some people want to believe that in order to get everything that they want out of life, they have to crush somebody else. And they don't see people working and building and having a foundation of respect and having a network built on respect. And they don't understand that, you know, you can get something fast and easy, but easy come, easy go. But if you get something the hard way, it can't be taken from you that easily, because, you know, anybody who tries to take it from you can't sustain what it takes to maintain it. And that's what happens when you're too shallow for depth. Or I want to get $1 million. Okay, so you want $1 million. What you gonna do? I'm gonna buy all this stuff and I'm gonna party and I'm gonna ball on these fools. Okay, but that other person that is deep has that $1 million and they can live, they can create a lifetime for themselves and their family off of that $1 million. They could buy a house, buy a car, a couple of cars maybe, invest, maybe buy a couple of franchises or start a couple of businesses, and and have money saved over, and then wind up letting whatever money is in the bank, trying to accrue with the interest on it. That the businesses, hopefully they do well, that you created your investments, extend your portfolio, and you may also just be working too. So you find that one person, after they finished balling on everybody, they were too shallow to maintain a lifestyle that they just saw in their head. And the people who were deep about it, not only did they maintain their lifestyle, they grew, and they constantly grew, and they constantly grew to the point where they were able to provide for people coming behind them. And when you're too shallow for depth, you're short-sighted, and you never see the big picture, which you wind up drowning in the short end of the pond while somebody's yachting on the deep end. You feel me? We out. Peace.